The alien girl stumbled through the crowded city streets, her stomach twisting with hunger, her small body weak from days without proper food. She wore tattered clothes that barely covered her pale green skin. People moved past her without noticing, and some laughed when she tripped over a broken stone. She tried to beg at the market stalls, but the merchants only waved her away, shouting that she was a nuisance. She ducked into a dark alley, pressing her back against the cold brick wall and whispered, "Just one meal. Please. One meal." The city lights flickered above her, casting long shadows that danced like monsters. She shivered, hugging herself tightly, feeling the emptiness in her belly gnawing deeper. Her eyes scanned the streets for scraps or coins, but there was nothing. The hunger was loud, echoing in her mind, louder than the city noises. Suddenly, a small commotion erupted nearby. A tiny alien dog ran past, chased by a group of rowdy humans. She gasped as it barked frantically, and without thinking, she dashed forward to help, her bare feet scraping the stone street. But a guard noticed her and shouted, "Hey, stop right there!" She froze. Panic shot through her chest. The dog yipped and ran into her arms. She held it tightly, breathing fast. She knew if the guard caught her, she would be beaten or thrown into the city jail. Her mind raced for a plan. Then a warm voice called out from the shadowed alley, "Hey, are you okay?" She looked up, startled, and saw a human standing there, his apron dusty and his hands holding a loaf of bread. His eyes were kind, filled with concern. He stepped closer and said gently, "Come with me. You look hungry." She hesitated. Memories of betrayal and cruelty flashed in her mind, years of being treated like nothing, being sold, beaten, or ignored, but hunger was stronger than fear. Her body shook and she nodded slowly, grippy. Numbing the small dog tighter, she followed him through the winding streets, heart pounding. The human led her to a building that smelled of warm bread and roasted meat. Inside, the kitchen was bustling with activity. Steam rose from pots, flames danced under pans, and the smell of spices filled her nose. Her stomach growled so loudly she felt embarrassed. The chef noticed her wide eyes and smiled. "It's okay. You can breathe first," he said, kneeling to her level. "You're safe here." She took a cautious step forward, feeling a small spark of hope she had not felt in years. The noise and chaos of the kitchen overwhelmed her, yet something about it felt different, alive, welcoming. She held the dog close and whispered, "I hope this is real." The chef extended his hand. "Come on, let's get you something to eat first." She looked at him, searching for a trick, a lie, but saw only honesty and care. She took his hand, letting herself be led, and for the first time in years, she felt a tiny flicker of safety. Her stomach still rumbled, but now it was mixed with something new. Hope. As she followed him into the heart of the kitchen, she didn't know what the future held, but she knew that this moment could change everything. The chef led the alien girl through a narrow door at the back of the building, and the smell of cooking hit her all at once. It was warm, rich, and strange, with spices she had never smelled before. The kitchen was alive. Flames flickered under large pots, knives clinked against cutting boards, and the sound of water boiling echoed against the walls. She stepped carefully, holding the small dog close, her eyes wide, taking in everything. She had never seen so much food in one place. She had never imagined a life where hunger could be fought with cooking instead of begging or stealing. The chef noticed her awe and chuckled softly. "Don't worry, it's okay. Just breathe," he said, patting her shoulder gently. She nodded, but her hands were shaking. She was still afraid. The staff in the kitchen looked at her curiously. Some whispered to each other, some raised eyebrows, but the chef waved at them. "She's with me now. Help her learn. She's going to be part of our team." The alien girl felt a mix of fear and excitement. She had never belonged anywhere, and now she was suddenly part of something bigger. He handed her a small apron and a broom. "Start simple, clean up, watch, learn," he said. She nodded again, holding the broom awkwardly. She tried to sweep, but the broom slipped from her hands, scattering flour over the floor and her rags. The staff laughed quietly, and her face burned with shame. The chef came closer, crouching beside her. It's okay, mistakes are fine, learning is what matters, no one expects perfection, he said with a smile. She blinked. This was the first time someone had treated her like she mattered, like her hands and her effort counted. She worked slowly at first, sweeping the floor, carrying chopped vegetables, stirring sauces. She began to notice small things, the rhythm of the kitchen, the way flames moved, the smell of spices changing as they oaked. She found herself enjoying the work. For the first time she felt her hunger fade a little, replaced by something new, a purpose. She touched a pot gently, feeling the warmth, and whispered, "I never knew food could feel like this." The chef heard her, and nodded. Food can heal more than hunger. It can heal fear, too. She looked up at him, surprised. He smiled, and turned to show her how to cut vegetables. His hands moved quickly, slicing onions and peppers with precision. She tried to imitate him, her small fingers clumsy, but slowly she began to match his rhythm. A pot boiled over. She jumped back, knocking over a spoon. The staff gasped, but the chef only laughed. "Good, you're learning fast, don't worry." She felt a spark of pride, her confidence growing with each small success. Outside the kitchen, she knew danger still waited. The streets could still be cruel, yet inside, she felt protected. She realized the kitchen was more than a place to cook. It was a shield, a school, a home she never thought she would have. She watched the chef work, noticing his patience, his kindness, the way he looked at the staff and treated them with respect. She wondered why humans could be so cruel outside, yet so caring inside. She took a deep breath, holding the broom like a sword, ready to face whatever lessons came next. The small dog slept beside her feet, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, life could be more than hunger and fear. The next morning, the alien girl woke early, her small hands trembling with anticipation. The kitchen was already alive with activity. Pots clanged, flames roared, and the smell of baking bread filled the air. She tied her apron tightly, her heart pounding. The chef had promised her today would be special, he said. "Today, you will cook for someone very important." She swallowed hard, fear mixed with excitement. She had never cooked for anyone beyond herself. She had never imagined anyone would care about her skills. Her legs felt weak, yet she stepped forward, determined to try. The staff watched her closely, some with doubt, some with curiosity. She felt their eyes like knives, cutting through her confidence. She tried to ignore them, focusing on the tasks ahead. The chef handed her a basket of fresh ingredients. "Remember, focus on what you know, and don't rush," he said. She nodded, breathing deeply. She started chopping vegetables, her small fingers careful, moving faster than she thought possible. Flames from the stove reflected in her wide eyes. She stirred sauces with precision, tasting carefully, adjusting flavors as she remembered from watching the chef. A pot threatened to boil over. She caught it just in time, her pulse racing. She whispered to herself, "I can do this. I have to do this." Outside the kitchen, the city streets were loud, but inside, her world was only the smells, the sounds, and the rhythm of cooking. When the door opened, a wealthy alien merchant entered, his eyes sharp and judgmental. He wore fine clothes and a chain of golden medallions. The staff froze. The kitchen seemed to hold its breath. The girl's stomach twisted. Fear threatened to stop her hands. The chef came beside her. "Remember, you are ready, trust yourself," he said, his hand briefly touching hers. A spark of courage surged through her. She carried her dishes carefully to two. He serving counter, placing them in front of the merchant. His eyes narrowed as he tasted the first bite. Her hands shook as she waited, silent and tense. The kitchen seemed to fade away. Her life, her hunger, and her fear all boiled into this moment. Then, slowly, his lips curled into a small smile. This is extraordinary," he said, his voice deep and approving. She felt a rush of relief, pride, and disbelief. The staff gasped quietly, some nodding in admiration. She had done it. She had cooked something remarkable. The chef clapped softly, his eyes shining with pride. "See, I told you you are capable. She blinked back tears, feeling warmth spread through her chest. Yet the merchant's eyes held a challenge. I have many restaurants across the city, but none like this. I want to see more of your work. Her heart sank slightly, realizing that success here meant constant trials, constant tests. She would have to prove herself every day. Yet the fear no longer paralyzed her, it pushed her to focus. She returned to the kitchen, determined to do her best. The staff now looked at her with new respect, and she realized that her journey had just begun. Cooking was no longer only a way to survive. It was a chance to change her life. The small alien girl who had once wandered the starving streets now held a spark of hope, a gift she had never known she could have. And as she stirred the next pot of sauce, she whispered softly, I will not fail. The alien girl worked quietly in the kitchen, her small hands moving with careful precision, chopping, stirring, and tasting. Yet her mind kept drifting back to the streets she had left behind, the dark alleys, the cruel humans, the hunger that had nearly broken her. Even in this warm kitchen, shadows of her past clung to her like a heavy cloak. She shivered slightly, brushing a strand of hair from her green face. The chef noticed her pause and came close. What's wrong? He asked softly. She shook her head, trying to hide the memories. Nothing. I'm fine, she whispered, but her voice trembled. He looked at her with concern. You don't have to hide from me, or from anyone here, he said, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. She flinched slightly at the touch. Fear still lingered, yet something in his tone made her feel safe. For the first time, someone cared about her feelings. She nodded slowly, taking a deep breath, and returned to her work. But the past was relentless. A voice from her memory whispered, You are worthless. You will fail. No one will help you. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms, trying to push the voice away. The chef prepared a new task for her, teaching her how to knead dough for bread. Her hands hesitated at first, remembering how clumsy she had always been. Yet as she pressed and folded the soft dough, a strange calmness washed over her. The warm texture in her hands reminded her that she was alive, that she could create something, not just survive. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the kitchen. A tray had fallen and the staff scrambled, but her heart skipped a beat. Her mind immediately flashed to the streets again, alarms ringing in her memory. She froze, unable to move. The chef called out, It's okay, stay calm. His voice anchored her. She shook herself and stepped forward, helping to gather the scat. Aired dishes. The staff nodded silently at her, a quiet acknowledgement of her courage. But even as she worked, fear lingered like a shadow at her shoulder. After the mess was cleared, she took a moment to rest, wiping sweat from her brow. She glanced at the small window above the sink, seeing the city outside, bright lights flickering, people rushing by. She remembered the nights she had slept hungry on cold stone, and the hunger pangs that never stopped. A lump formed in her throat, and tears threatened to fall. The chef came and handed her a small bowl of warm soup. Eat. You've earned it, he said gently. She stared at the bowl, still unsure if she deserved kindness. But the smell was irresistible. She took the first sip, warmth spreading through her chest, a spark of hope igniting. She realized that the past would always be with her, shadows that might scare her, yet she also understood that she could survive them. She had survived worse, and now she had someone who believed in her, someone who would not abandon her. The small dog nuzzled her feet, wagging its tail, and for the first time she allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps her life could change completely. Perhaps she could finally escape the darkness that had haunted her for years. She looked at the chef and whispered softly, I want to be stronger. I want to learn everything. He smiled, his eyes bright. And you will, one step at a time. She nodded, feeling determination rise inside her. The shadows of the past were still there, but now they were no longer chains. They were lessons, reminders of how far she had come. And as she stirred the soup slowly, She felt a small but powerful spark of courage. The alien girl woke before dawn, the kitchen quiet except for the faint hum of the city outside. Today was different. The chef had told her she would cook for a group of important customers. She swallowed hard, fear and excitement clashing in her chest. She had never faced such pressure before. She tied her apron tightly, her hands trembling slightly. The small dog nuzzled her feet as if sensing her worry. The chef entered, carrying a tray of fresh ingredients. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. She nodded, biting her lip. "I'll try my best," she whispered. The chef smiled. "That's all I ask," he said. Guiding her to the prep station, the staff gathered, watching closely, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and doubt. The alien girl felt their eyes on her, and a familiar nervousness crept in. She shook her head, forcing herself to focus. The first task was simple: prepare appetizers for the guests. She chopped vegetables quickly, her small fingers moving with precision. She stirred sauces carefully, tasting each one, adjusting flavors. The kitchen was alive with energy, flames leaping, pans clattering, knives slicing. Yet her mind was calm. She remembered the lessons from the chef. Breathe, focus, trust yourself. Just as she placed the last appetizer on the tray, the door opened and the guests arrived, a group of wealthy alien merchants, their eyes sharp, scanning everything. The girl's stomach twisted with nerves. The staff froze. The kitchen seemed to hold its breath. The chef came beside her, whispering, "You can do this. Show them what you've learned." She nodded, taking a deep breath, her hands steadying. She carried the tray carefully to the table, her heart pounding. The merchants tasted the first dish, their faces unreadable. She held her breath, her mind replaying years of fear and failure. One merchant leaned back, his eyes widening. "This is impressive." He said slowly. She felt a flicker of pride, but one of the other merchants frowned. "Is this the work of a child?" he asked sharply. A cold sweat ran down her back. Doubt and fear surged. She glanced at the chef, who nodded. "Yes, she did this," he said firmly. The girl straightened, refusing to shrink away. She carried the next tray, hands steady now. The guests began to smile, murmuring to each other, impressed. The chef watched her with pride, but he did not intervene. He wanted her to face this test fully. The final dish was a stew, rich with spices and vegetables. She had never cooked something so complex, yet she poured herself into the work, stirring carefully, tasting, adjusting, adding a pinch of salt here, a dash of spice there. She felt a strange confidence growing inside her. When the dish was served, the room fell silent. The merchants took their first bite, and then one by one they nodded, murmuring words of praise. Her chest swelled with relief and pride. She had done it. She had passed her first big test. The chef came and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You see, you are capable of more than you ever imagined." She blinked back tears, realizing that her life was changing, no longer a starving street girl. She was now someone who could create, someone who mattered. The staff gathered around, clapping softly, acknowledging her success. The small alien dog barked happily, running around her feet. She laughed quietly, feeling a warmth she had never known. The past still lingered, shadows of hunger and fear, but now they were behind her. She had faced a test, and she had won. The chef leaned down and whispered, "Tomorrow, the challenge will be harder, but I know you can handle it." She nodded, determination burning in her chest. She had survived the streets, she had learned in the kitchen, and now she would face anything the world threw at her. The alien girl entered the kitchen early, the warm light from the stove greeting her. Today felt different. She could sense it before the chef even spoke. The staff were moving faster than usual, knives clattering, flames dancing under heavy pots, and she felt a strange tension in the air. The chef called her over, placing a tray of ingredients in front of her. "Today, you will cook under time," he said, his eyes serious. "The guests will arrive in 1 hour, and every dish must be perfect." Her stomach twisted, fear rising. She had passed the first test, but now, pressure pressed down on her like a heavy stone. Her small hands trembled slightly as she touched the vegetables. The chef knelt beside her, whispering, "Focus on the rhythm, one step at a time." She nodded, taking a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The first dish was a delicate soup. She remembered the flavors the chef had taught her, carefully measuring, stirring slowly. Yet the clock ticked loudly in her mind. She worked quickly, checking and tasting, trying to perfect each detail. Outside the kitchen, the city buzzed, but inside, all she could hear was the sound of her own heartbeat, flames, chopping, and the faint clink of the clock. Suddenly, the assistant chef dropped a pan, and the loud crash made her flinch. Her mind flashed back to the streets, the fear of failure, the hunger, the people who had laughed at her when she fell. She shook herself, forcing her hands to move. The chef's voice cut through the panic, calm and steady. "You can do this. Trust yourself." She focused on his words, letting the fear slip away. The small dog at her feet barked once, as if cheering her on. The soup was ready, and she carefully ladled it into bowls. The chef nodded approvingly. "Good. Now the main dish," he said. Her next challenge was a large stew, complex and rich. She chopped, stirred, and tasted, adding spices with precision. Yet sweat ran down her face and her hands shook. The staff watched, some whispering doubt, others nodding with encouragement. Her mind raced, remembering the starving streets, the cold nights, the hunger that had gnawed at her belly. She refused to let those memories stop her. She poured the stew into the large pot, adjusting the flavors carefully. The clock ticked down, 10 minutes left, 5 minutes. The chef glanced at her. "Almost there. Keep going." She nodded, stirring quickly, tasting one last time, and smiled softly. The flavors balanced perfectly. She had done it. The door opened, the guests arrived, and the kitchen held its breath. She carried the bowls carefully, placing them on the counter. The merchants tasted silently. Her heart pounded, each second stretching endlessly. Then, slowly, one of them nodded. "This is remarkable." The others followed, murmuring in approval. The staff clapped softly, and the chef smiled, pride shining in his eyes. She felt relief, yet exhaustion pressed down. This was harder than any street hunger, any cold night. But she had survived. She had proven herself again. The small alien dog wagged its tail at her feet, and she laughed quietly. The fear that had threatened to paralyze her was gone, replaced with determination. She knew the pressure would only grow, more tests, more challenges. Yet she also knew that she could rise to meet them. She had faced the streets, she had faced hunger, and now she had faced pressure, and she had won. The alien girl arrived in the kitchen before anyone else, the morning air cool against her skin, her small hands trembling slightly. Today felt different. A challenge waited for her that she could almost sense. The chef approached, holding a small wooden box. "Inside this box is a special ingredient," he said, his voice serious. "It is rare, very powerful, and it can make a dish extraordinary, but only if you know how to use it." Her eyes widened, curiosity mixed with nervousness. She had never handled anything so important. The chef opened the box, revealing a shimmering crystal. Tiny sparks danced across its surface. The alien girl gasped softly, her mind racing. She remembered the street vendors, the meals she had begged for, the hunger that had never left her, and now, in her hands, was something magical. She swallowed, unsure if she could handle it. The chef placed a hand on hers. "You must trust yourself, trust your instincts, and remember what you have learned." She nodded slowly, closing her eyes, breathing in and out, focusing on the rhythm of cooking she had practiced so many times. She set the crystal beside the pot of stew she was preparing, and hesitated, then carefully picked up a tiny piece, sprinkling it into the bubbling stew. The liquid shimmered for a moment, and a soft aroma filled the kitchen, something sweet, spicy, and comforting all at once. The staff leaned in, whispering in surprise. The alien girl's heart raced. This was more than cooking. It felt like magic, yet a sudden doubt clawed at her. What if I ruin it? She whispered, her hands shaking. The chef crouched beside her. Mistakes are part of learning, but courage is what makes a cook great. She nodded, steadying herself, adding another tiny pinch, stirring slowly, carefully. The aroma grew, rich and inviting. She tasted a small spoonful, her eyes widening. The flavors danced, perfectly. I balanced. She smiled, a spark of pride igniting. Yet the real test was yet to come. The guests would arrive soon. She had to serve it perfectly. Soon. The door opened, and the first customers entered. Wealthy merchants with sharp eyes and skeptical expressions. The alien girl carried the stew carefully, her hands steady now. The small dog at her feet wagged its tail, as if cheering her on. The chef watched silently, giving her space to prove herself. She placed the bowls in front of the guests, holding her breath. The first spoonful was taken. A moment of silence followed. Then the faces of the merchants softened, their eyes brightened, and murmurs of approval filled the air. One of them leaned forward. This is beyond anything we have tasted before. Her heart soared, a mix of relief, pride, and disbelief washing over her. The staff whispered their admiration. The chef smiled, pride shining in his eyes. You did it, he said softly. The alien girl nodded, tears prickling. She had faced a new kind of fear, the fear of failure with something precious in her hands. Yet she had succeeded. She had learned that courage, focus, and trust in herself were the true secret ingredients. The crystal had helped, but it was her skill, her heart, and her determination that had made the dish extraordinary. As she stirred the leftover stew quietly, she realized that each day, each challenge, was teaching her more than just cooking. It was teaching her life, the streets, the hunger, the fear of failure. They had shaped her. But now, she was shaping her own destiny. The small alien dog barked happily, nuzzling her feet, and she smiled, whispering softly, I will keep learning. I will keep trying. Nothing can stop me now. The alien girl entered the kitchen with the same determination as always. But today, something felt different. A strange energy hung in the air. The chef handed her a stack of plates. You'll have an extra helper today, he said. But be careful, this one is unpredictable. She frowned, glancing at the kitchen door, wondering who it could be. A young alien boy stepped in, tall, with sharp eyes and a mischievous grin. He carried himself like he owned the place. I'm here to help, he said boldly. But the alien girl could feel the doubt in his tone. He didn't seem friendly. The staff whispered behind him, warning her. Watch out, he's trouble. The girl took a deep breath, nodding. I can handle this, she told herself, trying to hide her nerves. The chef instructed them to prepare a large feast for visiting dignitaries, dishes that required precision, timing, and perfect coordination. The alien boy immediately grabbed a knife and began chopping recklessly, sending pieces of vegetables flying across the counter. She flinched, her heart racing. This was chaos. Her hands shaking, she tried to keep up, calling out instructions, but he ignored her. The guests would arrive soon, and the pressure was mounting. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the pantry. The boy yelped, and for a moment she felt panic. Her mind flashed back to the streets, the hunger, the fear, the people who had mocked her failures. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to focus. We can do this together, she whispered under her breath, remembering the lessons the chef had taught her about trust, teamwork, and courage. She glanced at the boy, his eyes wide, confused. She nodded to him. Follow me, she said, guiding him through the steps of the first dish. He hesitated, but slowly he began to mirror her movements, chopping more carefully, stirring with precision. The kitchen seemed to breathe again. Flames and knives moving in rhythm. She realized something surprising. Despite his rough start, the boy had skill, raw talent, hidden beneath his arrogance and mischief. The stew they prepared shimmered with a new flavor. richer and more complex than before. The chef watched silently, a small smile tugging at his lips. The guests arrived and the two of them carried the trays. Hands steady now, placing the bowls in front of the dignitaries. The guests tasted, faces lighting up in delight. Murmurs of approval filled the room. The alien girl felt a surge of pride, not just in herself, but in the boy beside her, who gave a small nod, acknowledging her silently. She realized that allies could appear in unexpected forms. Even someone who seemed challenging or difficult could become a partner, a friend, a teacher in their own way. The small alien dog barked happily, running around their feet, as if sensing the bond forming. The kitchen staff whispered among themselves. Impressed by the teamwork, the chef placed a hand on her shoulder. "See? Trust, courage, and patience. These are your true allies." She nodded, smiling softly. The boy bumped her shoulder playfully, a small grin on his face. She laughed quietly, realizing that she was no longer alone in the kitchen. She had grown stronger, learned to trust, and even the most unlikely ally could help her rise. The shadows of her past still lingered, but the future felt brighter now. She stirred the leftover stew slowly, whispering, "Together, we can face anything." The boy nodded beside her, and for the first time, she felt a bond that could never be broken. The alien girl woke to the sound of thunder rumbling over the city. Rain lashed against the windows of the kitchen. Today was no ordinary day. The chef had warned her of a high-ranking group of alien nobles arriving. Their expectations were legendary. Her stomach twisted with nerves. The kitchen seemed smaller, crowded, louder than usual. The staff moved quickly, preparing ingredients with tense precision. She tied her apron tightly. The small alien dog curled at her feet. Sensing her unease, the door opened suddenly, and a messenger rushed in, dripping wet. "The nobles are early," he said, voice urgent, and turned to leave before she could respond. Panic rose in her chest. There was no time for mistakes. She glanced at the chef, who nodded. "Focus. Stay calm. Let the storm outside remind you to find the calm inside." She took a deep breath, recalling every lesson, every challenge she had faced. The streets, the hunger, the first test, the secret ingredient, the unexpected ally. She realized she had grown stronger, yet the pressure felt unbearable. The first dish was a complex salad with delicate spices. She chopped and mixed carefully, timing each step. The alien boy worked beside her now with ease, their movements almost synchronized. The storm outside mirrored the tension inside. Flashes of lightning lit the kitchen, shadows dancing on the walls. A loud crash of thunder made the small dog yelp, and the girl's hands shook. She shook herself, forcing her mind to focus, one task at a time. The nobles would arrive any moment. The chef moved silently behind her, offering guidance only when necessary. The second dish was a hot soup, rich with flavors. She stirred carefully, tasting, adjusting, balancing each ingredient. The rain hammered against the roof like a drum, echoing her pounding heartbeat. The nobles arrived and the air changed. Cold, heavy, eyes sharp, scanning. Every movement. The staff froze. The alien girl carried the first tray, her hands steady. Despite the storm and the tension, the nobles tasted in silence, their expressions unreadable. Her mind flashed with doubt, fear clawing at her confidence. One of the nobles leaned forward. "This flavor, unusual, but interesting," he said slowly, a murmur spreading among the others. She felt a spark of hope. She served the next dishes, one by one, the storm outside growing fiercer, rain streaming down in sheets, thunder shaking the building, lightning illuminating the anxious faces of the nobles. Yet inside the kitchen, her focus sharpened. She realized that the chaos outside mirrored the chaos she had faced inside herself. Every challenge had prepared her for this. Every fear had taught her courage. The final dish was a complex roast, tender, perfectly spiced. She carried it carefully, hands steady, eyes locked on the nobles. They tasted. The room fell silent, and then, slowly, one nodded approvingly, followed by another, murmurs of satisfaction growing louder. Her chest swelled with relief, pride, and disbelief. She had faced the storm, both outside and inside, and emerged victorious. The chef came beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The rising storm tests you, but it also shows your strength." She nodded. The small alien dog barked happily, running around her feet. The alien boy grinned beside her, their teamwork stronger than ever. She realized that storms, fear, and pressure were not enemies, but teachers, and she had learned well. She looked out at the rain-soaked city, whispering softly, "No storm can stop me now." The alien girl woke before dawn, the kitchen silent, empty, yet full of memories from the past weeks. Today was the final test. The chef had promised it would decide her place in the kitchen. She tied her apron tightly, the small alien dog at her feet wagging, sensing her excitement and nerves. The staff moved quickly, preparing the ingredients, yet all eyes seemed to watch her. The pressure pressed on her like a heavy weight. The chef approached with a small smile. "Today you will lead the service. Every dish, every step you decide. And remember, perfection is not the goal. Courage is." She nodded, swallowing hard, determination shining in her eyes. The first tray was a delicate appetizer. Fresh, colorful, she moved with precision, each cut, each stir, measured, graceful. The alien boy moved beside her, no longer a challenge, but a partner. Their teamwork smooth, flowing, like they had danced together in the kitchen 100 times. The first dish left the counter, and the guests arrived, their eyes sharp, scanning every movement. Whispers of curiosity and expectation filled the room. The alien girl felt the familiar fear, the memory of the starving streets, the cold nights, the hunger gnawing at her. Yet she took a deep breath and focused. The soup followed, rich, aromatic, every ingredient balanced perfectly. The guests tasted in silence, the room holding its breath. She felt a thrill, the magic of the secret ingredient lingering. Yet this time, it was not the crystal that made the dish extraordinary. It was her skill, her courage, her heart. The main course was a complex roast, tender, perfectly spiced. She moved with confidence now, chopping, stirring, plating, timing every step. The alien boy mirrored her movements, a silent understanding passing between them. The storm from earlier had cleared, yet the tension in the air remained. The final dishes were dessert, ruts, sweet, delicate, colorful. She placed them carefully on the counter. The guests murmured in awe, some leaning forward, tasting slowly, savoring. The alien girl felt a surge of pride. The chef nodded approvingly, his eyes shining. "You have done more than cook today," he said softly. "You have shown courage, trust, and heart." Her chest swelled, tears pricking her eyes. She had faced the streets, the hunger, the fear, the pressure, the storm, the skeptical guests, and she had risen above it all. The alien boy bumped her shoulder playfully, and she laughed, realizing she had found more than skill in the kitchen. She had found confidence, friendship, and purpose. The staff gathered around, clapping quietly. The small alien dog barked happily, jumping onto her lap. She hugged it tightly, feeling the warmth of victory. The guests smiled. Some even applauded softly. The chef came closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "From a starving street girl to the master of the kitchen, you have transformed yourself." She nodded, smiling, tears of joy streaming down her face. The city outside was calm, the rain gone, the sun breaking through clouds. A new day had begun. She looked around the kitchen, the smells, the warmth, the people who had become her allies. Her heart swelled with pride. She whispered softly, "I did it. I really did it." And the chef smiled. The alien boy grinned, the staff clapped, and the small alien dog barked once more. The kitchen was alive with triumph, and the alien girl had finally found her place, a home, a purpose, and the knowledge that no hunger, fear, or storm could ever hold her back again.